A man has been jailed for life to serve a minimum of 23 years for stabbing a man to death and trying to dissolve his body with acid, inspired by Breaking Bad. George Knight told the court he took inspiration from the US crime series after plunging his dad's Royal Marine Commando dagger 16 centimeters deep into Stephen Chapman's skull. Having recalled an episode from his season 1, the 19-year-old then set about stealing his neighbour's plastic wheelie bin in which to dump the lifeless Mr. Chapman and douse him in 6 bottles of high sulphuric concentrate drain cleaner. In other similarities to the show, the jury heard Knight had the ready supply of acid from his attempts at manufacturing amphetamine at his home in Rochester, and he used the name of the lead character Walter White, who made crystal meth as his password reminder for an online DVLA account. Maidstone Crown Court heard the well-spoken teenager's life was stranger than fiction, and the judge described the killing and its background as extremely disturbing. Keane, who was a bodybuilder and a cage fighting fan, had a dagger entwined with a snake tattooed on his neck just days before the killing, and he denied murdering the 38-year-old Mr. Chapman on October the 23rd last year in Rochester. Mr. Chapman's decomposed body was left in the bin by the teenager's conservatory while he went out partying through the night with friends, binging on drugs and alcohol. Mr. Chapman was found 2 days later, still with a double-edged military dagger in his head, after his desperate family had broken into Knight's home. During their desperate attempts to find him, the teenager had repeatedly lied to both police and Mr. Chapman's pregnant girlfriend about his disappearance.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Hello, George. PC from Medway Police Station.
Okay, sure.
Hello, mate. You said that you saw George last night. Can you just kind of tell me what... sorry, Stephen. Can you just tell me what happened?
Yeah, so I literally just saw him to pick up something from him. And I basically only saw him for a second. He got out of his car, and then I came over to just behind the kebab place, and then basically I got it off him and went back to mine.
Right,
it was basically some like Viagra stuff.
Okay. What's sorry, mate. We just need to grab a couple of details because obviously we're trying to figure out who was the last person to see him. Stuff. What's your last name?
To be honest, like, I don't really want to get involved in this if it's like...
Unfortunately, George, someone's gone missing. We can't locate them. You're one of the last persons to see him. You are kind of involved. When it comes to missing people, it's not kind of like... It's not like with normal investigations where we can say, yeah, it's fine if you don't want to provide. This is someone's life who could potentially be at stake here.
Yeah, no, of course. Like, I know.
So we're not saying anything's. We're not saying anything's going to happen. We just need to build a picture of where Stephen's gone, what's happened, and build up why he might have gone missing. You know, if he's just gone away to a hotel for a night, absolutely fine. But we need to figure out what happened prior to him going missing.
Yeah, I mean, I literally left like. You know, I was there for a very short period of time, and I left, and I was at a party.
Right, we need to get a couple of details from you first, mate, because we need to put it up on the log. We're not saying anything's going to happen to you, and quite frankly, I don't really care about what package he was picking up or receiving at that point. I'm more concerned about Stephen's life at the minute.
Oh no, yeah, of course. Like, I know what's happened, but it's all just a bit weird.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to figure out what's happened. So what's your last name, mate?
If I really have to give it, because you know, I know, like, I've not been like involved in wherever he's gone. Do you know what I mean?
No, and we're not. No one's saying that you've been involved, but everyone we've spoken to, we have to get their details because we've got to build a picture up of who the last people he's spoken to. We've got to understand what led up to him going missing. We're not accusing you of anything at all. As I said, I don't really care about that at the minute.
I just want you to know, like, obviously, like, he could have easily gone and just seen someone else.
Yeah, we know that, but obviously, as we said, George.
I don't know, like.
As I'm trying to say, mate, we need to build up a picture of what's happened. You're one of the last people to speak to. We might have some more questions later on. We're not saying you're in trouble. We just need your details.
No, I understand that. I'm just like making sure.
Yeah, no.
I'm not associated with something that's like him going missing. I know I kind of am, but like I don't want to be associated in a bad way, because I would never do that to him, obviously.
The court heard the pair had met up at Knight's home at around 8:30, so that the then 18-year-old could buy about 2.5 grams worth of cocaine from Mr. Chapman, who was also known as Ginger. Within minutes, Knights killed the forklift driver and then set about trying to destroy his body. But he claimed he had acted in self-defense when he stabbed the drug dealer during the struggle on his living room floor. He told the court he believed his family and his friends were in danger from Mr. Chapman and his criminal associates. But Knights was found guilty after prosecutor Caroline Carberry QC told the court the murder had been part of a premeditated plan to rob, hurt, or even kill Mr. Chapman at a time when the teenager was leading a bizarre, out-of-control existence. The trial heard of what was described as another extremely worrying behaviour in the weeks leading up to the fatal stabbing. His father Edward was said to be frustrated and at his wits' end with his son, resulting in him refusing to give Knights any more money, cancelling his credit card, and threatening to evict him if he did not change his lifestyle. In a series of angry messages between the pair, Mr. Knights described the teenager as a reckless wild man. He even warned, "You will look back one day and realise how out of control you really are." His former girlfriend also recalled finding sulphuric acid in his fridge and described him as being fascinated with knives. Just hours before the murder, the teenager had written a list-headed knife and comprising words such as superglue, masks, and wipes. The court heard that his password, Walter White, was found on his iPhone after police managed to hack the device just a month before the trial. Officers also discovered photos on the device of Mr. Chapman's body in the bin, his feet holding the lid ajar, and a video filmed at one of the 2 parties he attended after the killing, in which he boasted, "I'll play this to all my new friends in jail." The teenager also tested positive on his arrest for a staggering 13 drugs, including ecstasy, amphetamine, cocaine, prescription medication, Xanax, cocktail of steroids, you name it. Miss Carberry told the jury George Knight's behaviour throughout 2020 was stranger than fiction. This was a young man who inhabited a universe where he had set up his own amphetamine production at home, where a plan to hurt, to rob, kill came worryingly very easily to him. This was no fantasy world. George Knights was living a life where his primary focus was on taking drugs, making drugs, and selling drugs. He also had an unhealthy fascination with knives. The robbery of Stephen Chapman was for drugs, and in the course of that he killed Mr. Chapman. This was just part of a very bizarre existence George Knights had carved out for himself at that time. Of the murder itself, she said Mr. Chapman had been helpless in defending himself against a very strong young man armed with a lethal weapon. Miss Carberry added that the severe force used to inflict the fatal head wound was all out of proportion to any threat posed by Mr. Chapman and an act of murder. The defendant, who was an 18-year-old bodybuilder, a drug dealer with a history of steroid and other illegal and prescription drug use, someone with a recent and relevant history of bizarre behaviour, was the aggressor. This is what the prosecution said. The acid-doused body of Mr. Chapman posed such a risk when found that firefighters were needed to transport him still in the bin to the mortuary at the nearby Medway Maritime Hospital. Furthermore, the post-mortem examination could not be completed despite staff wearing full PPE clothing, including heavy-duty gloves, a respirator, and gas mask. In a sad twist of fate, Mr. Chapman's girlfriend, Rebecca Leader, gave birth to their child, his 5th, on the first day of Knight's trial. Absolute madness, guys. What do you think to that? A teenager who was inspired by Breaking Bad tried to dissolve a man's body in acid. So, giving evidence at his trials, Knights, who had left school before taking his GCSEs but spoke of wanting to become a self-employed stocks and shares trader, said he believed the only way he could get rid of Mr. Chapman was to copy the hit Netflix series. He told the jury, "I watched Breaking Bad, and in my madness at that point, I thought that the only way I could get rid of him was to do what they did in that film. It was the only thing I could think of. I looked up on my computer what acid it was, and it was sulphuric acid, which is what I had used in an attempt to make amphetamine, and what kind of plastic you have to put it in. The wheelie bin was the right plastic. I got the wheelie bin from down the road. I don't know what I was thinking at this point. My mind was just everywhere. I brought it back to the house and I put it in the conservatory. I put it on its side in the kitchen. Then I pushed and pulled Ginger into the wheelie bin. While I was doing that, his shoe came off. That's why he wasn't wearing any. Obviously, I wasn't thinking straight at all. I didn't put a gas mask on or anything like that. I got acid, which was already in the house, and poured it on top of the bin until I couldn't breathe anymore. Then I shut the conservatory doors and I left. I think I went upstairs and I was just crying. I shouldn't have done what I did, but I wasn't thinking rationally at that point in time. I wish I had called the police, but at that moment in time, I decided to put my family first. So guys, from that statement that he's made there, you can sort of tell that he's got some remorse with regards to what happened. It seems though that he panicked with regards to the situation that may have occurred in that house, and he's gone and done a madness. And if you come to think on it, he took roids, Xanax, cocaine, ecstasy. His head would have been all over the show. Madness. I just want to say rest in peace to the victim, and my condolences go out to your family. Let me know what you think with regards to this story, guys. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.